fellow got sworn in, that was a good thing.
This what?
He got sworn in.
Yep.
Legal and legit now. Seeing it's 4:30, I'm going to call the Albany Selectmen's meeting to order for April 9th. Please rise and join in the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. There's one more down the end if you want. Approval of the Selectmen's meeting minutes for March 19th, 2025.
So moved.
Yes. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Approval of the April 9th, 2025 consent file, review and sign manifest in the amount of $10,572.56, $7,607.54, and $62,741.19. This includes an accounts payable, payroll manifest for 3/26/25, and 4/1/2025, and 4/8/2025. Review, discuss, and sign an MS 525 form. Review, discuss, and sign new contract for 2025 assessing service agreement with Northtown Associates LLC. Review, discuss, and sign application for parade permit for Revel Race Series, Brooksea Incorporated. Review, discuss, and approve or deny the competitive bicycle moped race permit application for Kennett High School mountain bike team and the Mount Washington Valley Bicycling Club. Review, discuss, approve, or deny the local approval for construction of an individual sewage disposal system for Moatview Drive, map 9, lot 135. Review, discuss, and approve, or deny the notice of intent to cut wood or timber for map 6, lot 77. Review, discuss, and approve, or deny notice of intent to excavate for map 7, lot 58. Review, discuss, and approve, or deny the residential building permit for 28 Ferncroft Road, map 2, lot 1. Review, discuss, and approve, or deny the application for a driveway permit at map 9, lot 132. I will make a motion to accept the consent file as presented.
Accept it?
Approve it.
Okay, I'll second it.
All in favor? Aye. Town Administrator's report.
Review, discuss, approve, deny quote from Hope Security Systems to replace the broken security cameras at the town hall. It is the rear parking lot and also the hall both need to be replaced. I believe it was around $900. I have it right in front of me.
I saw it was 900.
I make a motion to approve the replacement of those cameras.
I second it.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Just for those present, we're not just going over these randomly approving them. We get a packet that's that big, that we go through ahead of time. So we kind of know which ones that are going to be a problem and which ones aren't.
So if we have,
Just so you,
Yeah.
you folks don't think we're just, you know,
yeah.
using the auto pen.
I thought it was all in your head.
Huh?
I thought it was all in your head.
No, well, no, we get these and we spend time at home reviewing them and that sort of thing, and we have the ability to call into Alyssa and ask any other questions and whatnot.
That's,
If we have an issue here with any of them, we can bring it up here.
that's what the consent file is all about. It lists everything that's in here, rather than going page by page by page. We go ahead and look at it, and then we can approve it all at once. It just saved us, an hour's work.
You folks wouldn't get out of here till 9 o'clock tonight if you didn't do that.
And occasionally there's one of those items that one of us wants to talk about, or eventually we'll stop, talk about that. Or we might separate that one item out of the consent file, talk about it and go on it separately.
But it's all public information. If people want to see it, you can stay here all night and peruse through it. But it's all public information.
Next I've got review, discuss, approve or deny rate increase from Allison's Cleaning. She's bumping up $10 a cleaning, she comes every other week.
She has charged that same amount for probably the last 10 years.
Yeah, no, I
I'd
don't
make
think
a
it's
motion to
unreasonable.
approve
I'll second that.
Allison cleaning.
All in favor? Aye? She does a great job. I'm happy to have her.
Actually, she's worth more than that.
Yeah, absolutely, to get a commercial cleaner, she is more than reasonable.
That it for you?
That's it for me.
Let's see. I guess that puts us right up to the Albany Chapel Committee. Do you want to, well, you guys, you here for the same reasons?
I'm over
John?
with it, I had a couple other things I wanted to bring up, but with chapel committee.
You want to do the Chapel Committee, and then we can talk to you more
Yes,
after?
yeah.
Okay, sure.
I have some copies of all the questions we have, if you guys want one of those.
Thank you.
So our first kind of question, was just as the Board of Selectmen, for a little clarification, wanted to see what it is you see as the purpose of the chapel committee being. What information are you looking for us to have available in our presentation to you? And are there any uses for the building that you have no interest in pursuing, just so we don't go in a direction that just isn't worth going
Do you want
I was gonna say, no, wanna go over one at a time, yeah?
Yeah, I guess we're looking for a reason for the building. A reason to keep it maintained, a reason to actually, I believe it's a historical building at this point, I'm not sure, but I thought.
With the roof that's on it, it's has
Yeah.
no historical importance.
Right, well, okay, so just a reason for existing. I mean, we can't justify putting money in, and we're putting money in, and we're putting money in, and it's just for it to sit there. We'd like to have some kind of purpose for it. Whatever that purpose might be, I don't know. We spoke about maybe a meeting room, we spoke about, well, I thought it would be good for some type of storage if necessary. I wholeheartedly like the idea that someone put out as a food pantry, but I don't know who would maintain such a thing. I think, would you? I mean, that's a hefty
There's a
hefty
lot
goal.
more to it than you realize.
But it's a wonderful idea.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Albany is definitely lacking in that. We could offer something like that, but that's a big discussion. And I wouldn't mind having it. But definitely keep that one on the radar too. How that works in with whatever else you guys want to use it for, I would be wholeheartedly in accepting that. The meeting room idea was thrown around, but I don't know. It's kind of, it can be too small. We had a discussion about using the big room as our meeting room moving forward when we figure out our camera situation. I think that's a better idea. So, what are your thoughts? If any?
So you covered most of it.
Yeah. I mean, I think the biggest thing is we get questioned, we just keep putting money into this building, what's the purpose does it serve? I'd like to have an answer for that.
And it should serve the community
It should, absolutely,
in some fashion.
you know. It's been the Historical Society for as long as I've lived here, for 30 years, I'm sure it was a lot longer than that, so. It never gained popularity as that. We used to actually have it manned on weekends, woman on weekends, how to put it. And, just nobody, you know, nobody had a lot of interest. So we can't continue that way.
I was on the last chapel committee, back the last time I was a selectman. We researched a lot of stuff, whatnot. A use for the town, whether it be for storage or a meeting room, was what we came up with. We looked at maybe renting it out for a business type of thing. That incorporates a lot of stuff.
No bathroom over there.
But yeah, I mean, there's a lot that we'd have to do to that place in order to use it for that purpose. I think a meeting room of some sort and some storage would be the main thing. As far as the committee is concerned, where it left off last time was, we didn't want to do anything to it because we didn't know whether the town had full ownership of the building because of the way it was left to the town. The select board has remedied that situation. It now belongs to the town. I mean, we had, somebody made a recommendation that we just tear it down and turn it into a parking lot for more parking. I don't think we want to do that. And I don't know whether he was being facetious or whether he was serious. But I think a meeting room of some sort or storage, we're running out of room in this building for storage. I know the town clerk, tax collector is up to here with everything she's got there. And we're thinking of turning this room here over to her and the planning board and the zoning board and even the selectman's office to be able to use to store records and that sort of thing. And moving our meetings out into the big hall, and whatnot. I think from my perspective, I don't know how Kelly and Jim feel about this, but I'd like to see the committee dispose of all the things that are in the building right now. There are some things that the town should retain for its records and whatnot. Jim and I were over there at one point, and you know, we were always wondering where the septic system was, and we found out from pictures roughly where it is, digging through some of the pictures over there. So I mean, it certainly has an advantage to keep some of those type of records. Where we would keep them would be either over there eventually or in this room here. Maybe organize them and that sort of thing. There are some antiques over there, I would think, that we need to either get someone that's involved with antiques to appraise them, or maybe have an auction, or something of that nature to get rid of some of that stuff. Some of the stuff, to be honest, and I don't mean to insult anybody, would be better off in a dumpster.
Yeah, the hard part about that is so many different views and opinions and.
Yeah, but at some point we've got to
Yeah.
decide what we're gonna do.
Well, we also had had, the Historical Society of
Right.
Conway come in and they had a lot of interest in stuff
Yeah.
that was in there as well. I thought it was them and some.
Yes, the
Yeah.
Conway Library,
Yeah.
Conway Society.
Somebody ought to get a hold of the state and see if the state, because there's a lot of law books in there, the old ones. I don't know if that's something that the state might want to retain.
So can we add, well, we jump to 4
Yeah,
and include 4 into this conversation?
yes, one of our other questions are, what are the policies, procedures, legal regulations for moving everything out of there, whether that's donation, auction, garbage removal, or any other forms of like, disposal or transfer.
I think we're charging you with getting it done.
I think by charging you with your recommendations, then we can say,
Do we not need, are we going to do?
I don't think that, no. we're wards to do such a thing, I would imagine. I wouldn't leave it up to you guys to do it, just to save you guys from seeing any grief, but I
Well,
think
that's what I was.
if you had a pile of discard and a pile of keep, and then we could actually ultimately say yes.
I'd say bring it to us and let us
Yeah.
approve it. That'll take all the load of responsibility off you, and you won't have complaints from people. We'll take it all.
You know, thinking about it, because I looked through some stuff over there, and there's a lot of interesting maps and things like that. I would think it would be a great idea if we could get them professionally framed and hand them in our new, you know, when we redo out here for
Yeah.
an actual selectmen's, you know, meeting room.
Yeah.
You know, we got a lot of wall space out there.
And also in the chapel, if we decide to set that up for,
Yeah,
you know, small group meetings.
anything that's
type of thing.
displayable like that, and people would love to just kind of wander about and look at things. I still look at the stuff out there and I've seen it 1,000 times,
We were in there last night looking at things that we would like to see stay,
yeah,
especially go up on the walls and
yeah.
such like that. And during our conversations, we talked about the food pantry slash a donation thrift place. Because there's one down in Ossipee, which is a food pantry slash thrift store that does not have a bathroom on premises.
Yeah.
And then there's also the white church on the corner going towards the hospital that has a thrift store. And I'm working to talk with them about what their permits look like to have that, and they also do volunteer-based work. So I feel like something that serves the community and saves us some money might
I
be
think it's a
beneficial.
great idea, but it's, like I said,
Yeah,
there's a little bit of manpower involved, woman power involved to control
Yeah.
that. And it's, like, I see a few more thrift stores around too that do this type of thing, and they're busy. I mean, there's a lot of traffic at that white church you talked about. I used to sit across the road there and go in circles all day long.
The one in Ossipee is always slammed.
Yeah, I know Madison has one too.
I do every week, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The one in Tamworth is open every Saturday in conjunction with the farmer's market.
Yeah.
And it draws as big a crowd as the farmer's market.
Yeah.
It's volunteers running out of the church, and in nice weather, it's set up out on the parking lot.
Yeah.
That's how much stuff they have. In fact, they're so busy, there's times they can't take more stuff.
The only thing I would recommend is if you decide on that route, before you make your decision, let's check with Primex and make sure
Absolutely.
it falls under our insurance, liability insurance.
Just,
Or if we have to modify
yeah, I mean,
our,
just for sake, if you give
policy.
away some bad food or something, I mean, who's reliable, who's
Right.
responsible for, because it's third hand, by the time you would see it, someone else had it, and someone else gave it to you, and now you're gonna give it to someone else, and the liability that might be found in that.
And I did there is, just last week, there's email chains going around with the NHMA regarding Board of Health stepping into these food pantries that aren't being regulated as they should and all of that, so that would definitely be a big concern with food.
just too much regulation.
That's another story, but I feel that the energy is here to make this happen. Right now, you have such a group, and I think people would definitely get on board with the whole, I know I would be on board with it. If you wanna get all the ins and outs about it, I would be definitely willing to hear about it. I think
Yeah,
it's
I've
a
got
great idea.
connections at both places,
Yeah.
so I can talk to them, see what the regulations would be, fire code, kind of stuff
Yeah.
that they have to deal with, permitting,
Yeah.
volunteer staff.
I mean, it's mostly a food idea, that expired foods you gotta keep an eye on, and,
Yep.
you know, so, yeah, I think that's a great idea. But as far as what's in there, I think, the more I think about it, I call it decorating, but actually using it, you know, up and down any halls throughout the building, I think, is a great idea.
So maybe the best thing to do with all this stuff is number one, you're gonna have to inventory it all and have an item of what it is, and then where you think it should go, like if
There
it
is
should go to the library.
There was already an inventory.
I was gonna say,
That
I
was
thought
gonna be one of our questions.
Yeah, I saw that on here.
There
So
is an inventory,
Yeah.
here's on
I
Connor.
thought gave that to you, remember? Way back when we started talking about forming the committee.
I thought it was them.
Cause if it's.
I'll
stuff
find
that-
it. I know actually right where it is, so, yeah.
When we put the budget,
Oh, I
There it
gave
is.
You sent the emails from the library and the.
what they were interested in.
What they were interested in, not like any sort of, just.
There is an inventory list.
I got this list that is for both the Conway, the library.
Right, that's what they had sent us, yeah.
Yeah,
So that shows what they're interested in.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yep. So yeah, we had a complete list of the inventory and where you would like it to go to, then we could all approve it.
then we could look through it, yeah, don't give up the windows.
Yeah, first item on the list though is look through it and see what we wanna keep as a town.
Yeah, like there's a case in there that I just put a typewriter in that I think should go either in the big hall or somewhere for display.
Displayable, yeah.
Yeah.
Museum type. And you have a budget, there's a budget for them, right?
I don't know that there's a huge budget, and that was one of Kelly's worries about the chapel committee, is there's gonna be restrictions of what they can do this year because of the budget.
But this year we voted to do, we voted to expend 12,000? Is that for, that was one of the warrant articles for the chapel expenditure?
Building?
I believe it was for repairs.
Just for building repairs?
Yeah,
Okay. So if there's any building repair stuff we have to do this year,
yeah.
that's something that we could.
If we did an auction, we could use the funds from that for the building. I know.
We have to
enough
figure out
of
how that
those-
works.
Yeah.
There's certain ways on how it has to be.
Where the
Right.
money would go.
Is there a list of anything in there that has been written in that needs to stay in that building besides one of the artworks that's already up there?
As when we first started talking back in the fall about, getting a committee formed, I was able to find an inventory list that Peter put together.
That's complete with pictures.
We looked at it, pictures, I mean, it's the whole inventory. I'm not sure if it says, exactly what needs to stay, I don't think there's anything like that.
No, I
in
think
it.
it's just-
He didn't go that far.
I
No.
was talking to Sarah Knox, I think, so.
Yep.
Yeah.
And she had mentioned something about there being one of the paintings on the wall,
The
believing
man with
that
the
that
dog.
was at one point written into a deed of like having to stay in the building. I don't know if you guys know anything about that, if there'd be a way to find out, or if maybe that was just something old.
Sounds like something we'd be keeping anyway. so.
Yeah, anything
Yeah.
on the walls at this point,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
probably would, the
Yeah.
maps we can get
Yeah.
framed.
Anything history related.
I think the outfits that are not genuine articles can go.
Yeah.
There's certain pieces in there, like there's the cookbooks, the history thing, which if
Yeah.
we got approval for, we could, add that as an event to sell them for.
Well, they were
months.
purchased by the town to sell.
Yeah,
I
so
think
I,
there's three different books.
yep, I think so, So having like an event of like help us clean up the chapel to make it something for our community, hold a piece of history in your own home.
One of the things that needs to be done, I think, as soon as possible, is on the back side of the chapel, the solar window used to have a screen there. Looks like somebody tried to tear it out for some reason. We need to find out if there's animals living in there.
Yeah, so I think that's on one of her things I've got down here.
Okay, and that stuff can be done under our maintenance.
Right, so,
Get some prices for, some quotes for that.
That was one of the questions we had, number two, was if we as a committee, if we're gonna be the ones responsible for reaching out for quotes, for anything, to be done, or inspections, for example, like there's some soft spots in the floor, like hiring someone to come in and check those
Yes,
out, if that's something
yes,
we
an
do,
estimate.
or if that's something we'd like just reach out to you guys about, and if there's an approved list of contractors who would be used in that sense.
We don't have an approved list. We don't have a,
Instead of just some random.
I
A
think
qualified person that has insurance,
Maybe that's-
okay, and I would say to get at least 2 estimates, possibly a third
very
one.
good,
depending on the size of the the project. I mean,
And if you have
they're gonna do
trouble
everything.
finding someone, reach out.
You
to
know,
us.
you folks just can't say, yeah, go ahead and do it. Get our approval, so if anybody complains, it's
Someone
already
It's all your
over.
guys'
Well, someone else will say, how come they didn't hire me?
Well,
How come they didn't hire me?
Yeah,
We gotta go through that.
yeah.
And with that in mind, we were looking at the walk around the building yesterday. Trying to see if there's how you get under the building for someone to
Yeah,
look
so-
at.
So I had a guy named John Sikowski. But anyways, he's a builder who built like Hello Bean and all this stuff. And he came down and we went through the building and he looked at everything from the floor up and was very impressed with the condition of the building. Like if you look at all the walls, they're straight and even and there's one section of the foundation on the front where there's like a gap, but all that stuff he was in love with and said it was great. We didn't get under the floor because we couldn't find a way to get under there, short of crawling through that little window, which I'm not gonna fit through, so.
So when we were here last night, I was walking around looking at it, and I was looking at the cellar vent on the parking lot side.
Mhm.
I opened it up, and it was basically, it was dirt. You could stick your head in there, and that was about it on
Right.
this side.
Right.
So there's no getting under there on that side. I don't know what
Yeah.
the other side would look like.
Is there a basement at all?
I don't think.
Well, there's a crawl space.
Crawl
Yeah.
space?
Yeah,
well, crawl, but who knows how big it is?
Yeah, so there's probably nothing.
So on this side, you're talking a couple inches between the dirt and the floor.
Okay.
So there wasn't, on that side, there wasn't. If there's something on the other side,
So maybe in order to fix the floor, not that you would know this, but maybe you have to go from the top.
Yeah, okay,
And,
Karen.
Put a little
and
lid over the top.
Yeah.
maybe we need to get, we have to pull some planks up or something to see that, if we can't get underneath it, but.
Well, we should, if we're gonna put people in that room for meetings or whatever,
Mhm.
we gotta make sure that if we put 30 people in there,
Right.
okay, the floor doesn't cave in.
Yeah.
So whatever we have to do as far as pulling up the floor or getting under there to at least inspect the main carrying members of the floor, I think we should do that
Yeah.
while we're in this process.
I'm unfortunately leaning towards storage for that. If we're gonna be moving this way and this that way, and we're kind of pushing everything that direction for safety reasons and
Cost.
cut the cost associated.
Well,
At least for the short term, I think storage is the answer.
oh, for sure, but, I mean, we need to see if the building's gonna be able to stand up for the next 20 years.
I agree.
You know, and the reason that, you're finding that much space between the floor and the ground, I mean, is there any rot in the floor? Or in the carrying beams, you know what I mean? We need to at least determine whether they're okay or not.
Right.
We've got a metal roof up there, and everything that runs off it runs right down on the side. They may have left this much before they dug it out for the crawl space around the edge of the building just to support the stone foundation. But we need to, I think, we have to do our due diligence from a safety standpoint and make sure that that's gonna support
check everything
whatever
out.
we,
Now, you
whatever
check
we do.
down.
I mean, and a complete inspection of the building probably would be in order, and it would be worth the expense to do it. The other thing is the electrical in it. Has it got the old cloth covered wiring? I know there's some modern
Sure do,
stuff in there, but how much is modern versus, so having an
If you're gonna
electric.
propose any use for it, including storage, your insurance company is gonna want it
Oh, yeah.
inspected
Yeah.
for the floor.
So I-
Oh, absolutely.
In order to give them some direction, I think figuring out everything that's in it and where that stuff's gonna go
Right, that's
would be key,
number one.
with checking out the floor being the backup to it. That would be the second thing, I would think. And then, once you know those answers, then you can narrow down what you wanna do with the space, depending on
Yep.
how bad it is, what the cost is, and all
And
that.
that may be next year.
Right.
So, but we can get the money.
Maybe the focus should be figuring out the items in there, the inventory, and making a decision on that.
If you eyeball the space without that stuff in it, or whatever you wanna retain, pushed to the walls, it's smallish, but it's not small.
Right.
it could, part of it could be storage, part of it could have a use that's designated. And my suggestion was try to come up with ideas of possible use and work backwards. Well, what does it take to execute that?
Right.
And if you have a food pantry, thrift store, when is it open? Who's gonna do it? Where are you getting the goods? What
Like a whole business man.
what extra insurance would be involved in working backwards from a proposed use for it? But the building is in fantastic shape. It's just,
Yep.
you should really applaud the committee's effort to try to make something happen before we.
Oh, I
You know,
love
the
the
other thing
idea
is-
of it being a meeting room.
Huh?
I said, I love the idea of it being a meeting room just because I grew up
Well,
there.
let's
And,
take the first
yeah,
step.
yeah, no. I'm just saying, that's what I like.
See if the floor will.
You know,
Who knows what it would cost to
You know,
get it to that point.
Does it need to, how is the outside surfaces, does it need to be painted? Any of the trim need to be painted? Just to preserve it, if we do everything on the inside, but the outside is falling apart,
Yeah.
we're defeating
So
a.
a quick look at, it looks very good from
Again,
the outside.
I would say let's get a home, someone that does home inspections or something to really do a report on it.
But I think that all depends on what you're doing with the space too. You know, if you're gonna use it for storage, then the windows are probably fine. But if you're gonna use it for a meeting room and wanna have it heated and warm, then maybe the windows are not fine, so.
Or the doors, the front doors are.
The front doors, yeah, falling apart.
But it's historic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there you go.
I mean, I think the front door, you can just walk in. There is a lock.
Not that much, I think.
Okay.
And similarly, is there any record that you know of the last time the fire department performed any sort of safety inspection or any record of the occupancy limit for the space?
That would be something you'd get the fire chief, in Conway.
We do have an annual inspection, we had it done in November. I don't know,
I don't
does
think
it,
it
if
goes
it
over there.
includes the chapel, I'm not sure.
I know that Chief Solomon did inspection of the chapel, and that was
A long time ago.
probably 6, 7, 8 years ago.
Would that be covered under our maintenance money if we needed to hire someone to,
I would say
so
so.
then, do we have to pay them to do that?
I would
The
think so.
inspection of the fire department was
Let's,
nothing.
after this meeting, let's look through our budget and also the warrant articles and see what, didn't we have a warrant article?
Mhm.
And did a capital reserve fund, is it an expendable one? That would be the question.
Yes, I think we.
I think you
We
made
have a
that.
town
we made it
report,
that, yeah.
go grab a town report up there and just see.
And I guess
Cause that's what we should do is put together a capital reserve fund for that.
I
thought
think
we
there
had
is, I think
started
it is,
on
and I think it.
The question is, is it expendable? Because expendable one means that for good reason, we can have a public hearing and the select board can spend money
You
on
probably
it.
know what that line item is.
Say maybe it's not expendable, because we did have to vote through,
I didn't think it was, but I could.
yeah, we voted to get the 12,000 to do the repairs.
Right,
If it was expendable, we wouldn't have needed to do that, right?
yeah.
So we used the Common Village Fire Department. I'm sure they have a record. You have no problem contacting them.
And I guess this might tie into this conversation as well. After like either repurposing the chapel, or I guess even right now as well, would like general upkeep of the structure fall under the chapel capital reserve fund, or would that be included in the general maintenance in the town hall budget?
The chapel reserve fund is established. The goal is $50,000. Current balance is, as of September 17th, 24, is $24,000. It doesn't say whether it's an expendable trust fund or not.
I don't think it is, but could you find a warrant article in there for the repair money?
This,
Yeah, we voted in March, warrant article, I don't know what number it was. You
So-
remember, Lisa?
Yeah, I think the building is included in the property. I don't think it's ever been separate. We've just never done anything over it.
The reserve fund would just be more for chapel specific.
Yes, for what?
So is that question, the money needs to come out of the chapel
I don't,
reserve fund?
once this is all done and complete, I think it'll be general maintenance. Because it's part of a complex, I guess you call it.
But it never was, because we didn't have rights to it.
Right, exactly right.
Right. So maybe we need to,
Up it,
yeah, combine it, or whatever.
combine it. There's nothing combined because there wasn't even anything for it.
And that probably doesn't depend on what we do with the space, whether you combine it or not.
Right. But the general upkeep and maintenance is part of the whole.
How's it insured now, do you know?
It is insured
It
through
is.
that.
Oh, it is insured, yes.
I just don't know
But is it
what
part of it?
occupancy.
I don't know, I'd have to look into the policy.
It may, I'm sure it has a stipulation to it, whether it's storage.
Right. And some of these things, when I
All
talk
right,
to
at
a
town
county,
meeting in March, okay, Article 8 was to raise and appropriate $1,000 to be put into that fund. It does not say it's an expendable one, it would have to
yeah,
if it was.
I don't
I
know.
think it wasn't, because when I went to, it's not, because I remember when I tried to get the roof done.
And then Article 9 is a vote to raise and appropriate $15,000 to repair and reshingle the chapel steeple and other maintenance, engineering, and repair work. So whatever is left over from the roof of the chapel, we do have authority to do that.
But we won't be able to spend any more than that until we go to the next town meeting next year.
We're patient.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of-
Welcome to town
And
government.
next week, that roof should be done, so we'll know the balance of.
Well, the other thing we could do, and just keep a note on it, is we could put a line in the budget for chapel too.
Yeah, that was her next question here.
Oh, is it? I haven't read.
Well, she was talking about it when you were looking through that.
I'm maintaining that the building will be maintained through our, building and grounds maintenance budget as part of the whole complex. It shouldn't be separate. Because I've never seen a separate line for the chapel.
Well, I never have either, I'm just saying it's an option that we have to add a line in the budget to put something in there for a special item.
Over and above.
Right, you know, put it, you know, when we don't need the money, was there $1 in there, just keep the line open.
So in other words, would be general upkeep. If you're gonna do something over and above that, we'd have to appropriate more money.
We'll come out of the reserve fund.
I mean, from $15,000, there will be money left over from the roof,
It's supposed to be, yes.
Yeah. because that's why we put it at $15,000.
So I guess our next question, is there any way to contact, town residents, such as like through the mail or something, to send out any sort of survey or questionnaire?
We have MailChimp, right? Does that ever work? I know we have it.
I don't know, is that Sandy's or?
I think, I know we used it for the road, meeting, when they have the meeting.
So what that was, I actually had to go into Avatar and they had to generate a report for Route 16 residents.
Oh, not the whole town.
No, it was just residents on Route 16. I have that, but it's just 16. It was a process.
Yeah.
For them to get that done. I don't know if Sandy would have all the mailing
What do you
addresses.
want to put up to the people in town?
We had discussed some sort of like survey or questionnaire just to gather some information about the town's wants and needs for the space. Maybe have like some different ideas, be like, are you interested or do you find there needs to be a food pantry rental space? Have like a list and people say yes or no. Maybe have like a what age range are you to kind of get an idea of different age ranges and what those age ranges find they most want or need.
I would think you could put in what if there's any residents that are interested in seeing the inventory that we have out there and helping decide yay or nay too. 'Cause like I was saying, there's a lot of, you know, if I go out there, I'll see things that I recognize. And other residents may do that too. I forget your first name?
John,
John. So I think we had talked to John, we had noticed to John, you wanted to get involved with our website, is that correct? Or-
yeah, but before we go to that, one of the things, I've been involved with the dissolution of a couple local community historical sites.
Yeah,
Just make sure that somebody didn't donate something,
right.
it suddenly shows up.
Well, that's what happened with the chapel.
Yeah,
You might wanna scan it just for
Yeah.
knowledge, is it written out, because somebody might have knowledge, and also when you get into things like auctioning things that people donated, and, I mean,
Well, put a public notice in the newspaper.
well, I was saying, if we do something with the website, my initial thought was we should have a newsletter sign up form where as a resident can sign up, and if there's a meeting scheduled, that I get a notification on it or something like that. That was what I was thinking.
well, this segues to the website. At the town meeting, I heard some people say it wasn't clear to them that the announcement of the town meeting, where it was at the bottom of the screen. The younger folks have much more sophisticated design ideas than us older folks do. They don't look at it the same way, and if people are missing information.
Well, our website is confusing, there's no.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that got the question, obviously, resources, is whose job is it? Is it an extra job layered on top of another job? Is that a problem? I've got a house that produces websites. I got two daughters, one is the education director at Mountaintop, she does all their web stuff. And the other one is she's got her own websites, plus she's done newsletters for various folks, on Mailship and Constant Contact.
Yeah.
So if we could define what kind of digital resources would be useful, I can wrangle them.
And what functionality we really want to get out of that, I think would be the key.
Did you guys get any response from the digital suggestion box you would put on the flyers? Nothing?
I think Ian looked yesterday.
That's typical.
I'm just curious, yeah.
You know, really quite frankly.
Right.
Yeah.
But again, that gets to be your digital thing, where if we did have a more robust digital something,
Right.
if it was on the town website, you know, a box or field that had an announcement about this committee soliciting ideas.
Right.
And if you've got, you know, 150 people looking at it, 5 of them might give you something, 5 more than you've got. So I'm willing to volunteer those services if we can define how to proceed and what would be useful to the town.
So I don't know if that helps today for you to get your mailings out, but moving forward, I thought that would be the best way to do it, would be on the website.
May I make a comment, David? Well, I was not born here, you hear the accent, but, you know, last Saturday I was in a gathering that we were 37 people invited, yeah? And I decided, because the majority of the people are born and raised in Albany, with parents and grandfathers in here. And I started to talk about my chapel committee. And then, I mean, a couple of people, not a couple, like 5 or 6 people turned around me and they say, where do you find a chapel in Albany? And I say, very easy, beside the town hall. And I mean, I tell you, you know, it surprised me that people born and raised in here, you know, are completely ignorant. They said to me, how did you find it? You are not even from here, and you find it, and we are here. I said, well, I care about the towns where I live.
Yeah.
But
So,
it's,
me growing up here,
uh,
that wasn't a chapel, that
Never
was,
a chapel.
that was the town hall.
That was the
our
town hall
town hall,
meeting.
that was it.
There was a school before that.
In school before that, so yeah, that's, I think that's why some of the older generation doesn't.
Chapel.
yeah, well, they were not that old.
No.
I was one
Yeah.
of the oldest,
Well,
as usual, yeah, but I
yeah.
remember people 40, 50
Yeah, I
years
don't
old.
know why it's
yeah.
called chapel.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And, but they didn't even know that that exists.
yeah.
That's all the chapels on the side.
Yeah.
It must have been used at one point, right, as a chapel?
But I think this is a perfect
That, well,
example.
the
for
original paperwork, I think,
Right.
said
the website, if you, this activity
Yes.
was a little more front and center,
Yeah.
it doesn't take much to get the ball kind of rolling and pick up
Well,
steam that
the other thing you can do, it's a little more work, but it might be fun, we used to have a town picnic over, on the Swift River for several years. We have a gas grill out there. Why don't you have an open house for the chapel this summer? Have hamburgers and hot dogs or something.
We could sell those books that were about to be sold.
Well, we could do a lot of things with that and invite the townspeople to stop in, give them some things to fill out. You gotta remember, this town is a very small town.
Yep.
There's 750 people. Probably 250 of those people, okay, are underage children, students, whatever. So we've only got probably 300 or 400 adults to choose from as volunteers. That's why I think we have trouble filling the positions on committees and commissions in town. It's the only explanation I can come up with.
To get back to the basics of how's the website being done now, and how could you suggest that I can help proceed to put some resources into?
Well,
it?
let's finish with these.
Yeah,
That overlaps with.
The last question, I think, was how to reach out to the residents, right? And
More of that. Our last approach, we then asked if you guys had any questions for us. Because you had mentioned I believe it's Valley Vision.
Yep.
You mentioned discussing that early.
Yeah.
we did, anyway, and they said that we could do that, and there's no
Yeah.
expense to it,
No
right?
charge, but we have, see, I don't know how that would work, because there is a charge if they do the interview, if they have their cameras, and,
Right.
it's not a big charge, it's $75.
But we could, if we would move forward on the other project, we could use that stuff to generate our own thing and give it to them.
That's what I'm thinking,
Yeah.
yeah.
So we're looking at getting our
You know
own.
anybody that can edit film?
We do.
Well, we're gonna probably invest in some camera equipment so that we can avoid the expense of having somebody come here and do
And
their
then when you
meeting.
blunder, you can blunder it out, fix
Yeah.
it, so edit the way you want it. That's probably hold off a little bit till we get that.
He was interested in doing that one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So my oldest son does that type of stuff.
Yeah.
He was interested in doing that, so.
And the only thing that I would offer as just a comment on volunteers is, you know, everything sounds good today, you've got a bunch of people that are enthusiastic. How many years down the road are they gonna be enthusiastic?
Right. So keep that in mind.
Now,
when you
that's
decide
how
what
we
to do
got
with space.
a historical,
Hysterical
Well, that's what concerns me about, like, the food pantry, great idea this year, next year, the year after, I mean,
Do we end up with a chapel full of, you know,
Rotting-
rotting
Yeah, is someone
food
willing to
because
commit to
all of a
every
sudden.
single weekend? You know,
Right.
like that's the stuff where you're gonna run into.
seems like
trouble.
these thrift stores are usually connected to a church, and
Yes.
then the church is there for.
And they have a ton of volunteers.
But
running
don't
around.
let that deter you. If you,
No.
if you
But keep
wanna
that in the
make
back
this,
of your mind, because it does become a problem, and the people that run it end up doing all the work, and burnout is.
like Rick said, we used to have a picnic every year, and then the people that did the picnics
It's a lot of work.
went away, and then we used to have a Christmas party every year, and the people that did the Christmas party went away.
We had a spaghetti supper.
Again, we had a turkey dinner for Thanksgiving. We used to fill that all up there
Yep.
for Thanksgiving, and the people that put it on went away. It's just the
And all great
interest
things,
moves around.
all of them are great things, you know,
Yeah,
in the community to do together.
They're great ideas, but you need the volunteers to help.
I love to come to these
Together.
things, but I'm not gonna. I've cooked
All
a
I
few
can say
turkeys.
is caution you on that.
The longevity.
I've been there, done that, where I end up being the only person that cleans up afterwards.
So I don't know that we could get mail out, right? I mean, you'd have to do it through Sandy, and I don't
Well,
know that.
What we probably had was we used the tax addresses in the past, but
Right,
that's,
but she's
a
pretty
lot of it
busy.
goes
Yeah, but
to.
see, that goes to everybody.
Most of those
a lot
people have
times.
PO boxes, and they
Right.
don't, it goes to their tax address, there's no mailbox there. So that didn't work for us.
Right, and cost of the postage and all of that. has
What
to
about
be-
maintaining a mailing list for the town? So if you found a place where people can sign up to be on our mailing list.
Right.
And then whenever we have something.
Well, that would have been something to do with John.
I know, but you know, just about everybody comes in to register a vehicle eventually. And that's where,
Tag or.
yeah, that's where the information I got from people all came from a clipboard on that table out there, that people, it says, read this.
And
And they were happy to put down their email.
ask the
address.
town clerk tax collector to point to it when people show up at the window out there.
So there's a
And
definite,
we could have Alyssa do the same thing.
just put a big read this and people
Yeah,
read it.
looking for suggestions. I mean, she gets a ton of traffic.
But then you'd have
Residents.
a mailing list, or an email list, or however you maintain it, and you just blast out whatever information you want. And we could use it too, I'm sure.
Yeah.
We've always had problems with communicating when events are coming, especially with the road projects. We've been through that, so maybe it'd be a good thing to at least start the ball rolling to have that email list.
And
However that works.
And I know when we were doing the picnic, almost everything we got was donated.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of people around that, if you're willing to go out and knock on a door, they're more than happy to donate stuff.
We have a few businesses.
I mean,
in town.
businesses.
Yeah, so that's good too. Where are we at?
Yeah, I think that was it, unless any.
Did we confuse it more or did we help?
I think
Hopefully
this
we.
is helpful,
Okay,
yeah.
so the only question I would have at the end there was, we bounced around a lot, did we get you the answers that you needed on everything, or did we miss something?
I think so, I'll probably have a question when they get home.
That's all right,
It's a good thing you guys are locals.
that's right. We are local.
Yeah,
And the only other thing I would suggest is maybe Alyssa can send to the planning board a note that when they have the capital reserve fund, the CIP meeting, that a member of this committee be notified to attend that.
Okay.
Well, no, that way you can be part of the input into how we decide how to put money into the various funds.
You got almost a
If
year
you've
to
got-
worry about that, so.
And it's probably 1 or 2 meetings here, but you'll have direct input into what gets recommended to the select board. So if you've got a project that you're looking to do, one of the things that I would probably recommend is that you recommend to that committee that we change that to an expendable trust fund, and not just a regular
We'll remember that,
capital reserve.
because that should have been done. I thought we talked.
Well, I'm just,
No, we talked.
if we've got somebody else thinking about it, we won't forget.
I think we talked
We're all
about it,
getting
and we
old.
realized that we were a year away
Yeah.
from really needing to do that.
Right.
But if they do what they're doing this year, and we get direction to go next year, then we will want to be able to.
You know, and if you
Make
feel that
decisions.
more than $1,000 should be put into that fund, I mean,
A
that's where you recommend that type of stuff.
And if you go through and you find, like, nice framing for some of that historical stuff to be displayed prominently, I'm sure we can find the money somewhere else to make sure that's done, so you don't go, because that will be part of this building too. So it's beyond the chapel, I feel, so, I know framing can get expensive, but, I think along the walls out there, even up down this hallway, wherever you think it, historically would look great, I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, the only thing I would recommend on doing that is be careful of the materials you use for framing and whatnot, because some plastics will give off vapors that'll actually ruin old
Yeah,
things.
that's what I'm saying, make sure it's
So,
the
I
right.
mean, make sure it's right.
Yeah.
We don't wanna put up a picture that every year it fades.
200 years old and then we kill
It
it.
keeps fading, you know what I mean,
We
because
don't wanna do
of
that.
the plastic,
Yeah.
And there may be ways to preserve those things, so let's
Yeah,
do it right.
That is costly.
Yeah.
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 So-
it can be, but.
Yeah.
We could work with the historical society to see how they recommend.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
For sure.
Yep.
Yep.
Or if there's someone they use.
To do that.
Yeah, I'm sure they do. All right.
Exciting.
Yeah, I get excited every time we talk to you. You guys, you're breathing a little life into the place, and it's really a great thing. Because we could use a little life.
Well, that's where I got stirred up about the communication, how do we get more input from the community, how do we, more outreach to them, to even let them know something's happening here. What I heard at the town meeting, people were a little, I didn't know the sign wasn't changed. The easiest thing I was doing, my son-in-law drives by here every day. He changes the sign every day on the majestic marquee. He gets on a ladder and does it, which I won't do. So I volunteered him. If
We need a digital sign though,
no, let's get to the
for us old people.
Until then, yeah, let's get to the bottom. What kind of sign should we have? What do you want to have? Somebody said, "Oh, it's a problem," because I know it's nobody's job to change the sign. And I did notice that the signs, whatever was put up, stayed up for quite a long time. Now, if it's simply changing the sign you've got, he drives by here every day. That's an easy fix. If you would be interested in that, he just stops by, he changes the sign.
It's not easy when there's 2 feet of snow out there.
Well, he does it in front of
I took the letters down last week and I was aggravated by the time I was done, because they
Yeah.
don't slide out right, they don't, but we don't change the sign very often. It's when
But
something's
should
coming
we?
up.
Should we? Should
I
it
don't
say BOS meeting?
Have a nice day with a smile on
Well,
your face.
should it-
I don't
should
know.
it have the-
It can go to any length.
Should it have our meetings posted on there?
It could have taxes due, it could have town meeting, it could have voting days. I don't know what all the things.
Taxes due would be good.
Yeah, the elections meetings have all gone out.
We
on that, so.
could use it a lot more if it was an ease of use.
Let's look into a digital sign.
Okay,
They have solar powered ones,
I like that.
cost a fraction of a regular one.
You probably remote, you can just plug it in from your office and.
Yeah, I'm sure you can work it with an app or something probably.
Yeah,
They
from the
have,
couch.
usually they have a separate little tablet that you can
Yeah.
control on there.
That might make it more efficient and easier to change.
Well, if someone that
Certainly communications to the people in town will be
And the
beneficial.
more dynamic that sign is going to be, and I know that's in my communications practice, the more you'll catch people's eye,
Right.
the more they'll just be aware things are happening here. It's not just show up once or twice a year. Because I hadn't been to town meeting in 3 or 4 years because I've been traveling.
That's your fault.
That was a big fall off from the last one I went to, that attendance. And I was kind of alarmed by that.
Are you gonna see Doug?
How so?
We've decided we will go up and have a selectmen's meeting up at the chapel up in Lancet in late September.
In September, of course.
I
Yeah,
gotta get
Would you let him know that?
yeah.
I talked to him, he asked me about it
Yeah,
at
we're
town
the
meeting.
one Lancet unit.
You said
Yeah.
donuts
Yeah.
and coffee, though.
Huh?
Donuts and coffee.
We can do that. But this gets to the other communication.
That was fun going up there.
I'll tell you though,
When we used
the town meeting,
Yeah,
it's amazing when everything's going right, people don't need to show up.
I know.
When times are bad, we'll fill that room up. but
We need to put
Everything's
controversial
just-
stuff on.
No, we don't. No, we
Listen,
don't.
I went to one of the last ones where you went item by item and people protested the $500 for the Christmas party.
Yes,
because
they
didn't
did.
go, remember?
Yes, they did.
Okay, so
Those were those days.
those were those days.
Yeah.
But again, this gets to the website, if it could be a little more dynamic, a little more useful, a little easier to navigate, then it just enhances the perception. People are doing things, even if they're all going all right, there's things to do. And it makes it easier to reach out to them for various things when they come up with, what can we do about the chapel? So I'm just thinking as a communications person to stir it up. Now, I don't know how you do the website now, I don't know the platform or how
We
you
don't do
want it.
much.
It's on a wing and a prayer. Right?
We have a company that set it all up for us. I go in and update just the date, the
How do you do
meetings
that?
and
So
stuff.
what's the kind of process to do that?
You just log into the system and update it. You can upload, PDFs and
Are you happy
such
with the system? That's the one you want to use?
I'm so new to this position that that's what they had. It was set up when I got here. I haven't been here super long. So, it's just one more thing. That's really their call on that. I know there was concern when I talked to the Old Town administrator as far as security, given everybody's emails attached to it, given the payments that Sandy gets through it, stuff like that. That was her concern on it, as far as having an outside party run the town's website.
Well, the first step I usually suggest is have someone who knows look at your platform.
Correct.
What are your needs? Do you have the right platform for the needs? When was the last time it was changed or updated? Is the tech, there's all those kind of questions to evaluate what you've got and how it works. And the second step is, if you, whether you change platforms or not, how is the information, what information do you need to get out? In what form do you put it, make it easier for people to navigate and catch their attention? And then the third part is maintenance. It's easy to redo these things and put them up, and somebody's got to do all that work.
Right.
To add stuff.
So, well, speaking about maintenance, back to when I first got involved in the cemetery committee, we're trying to work on our cemetery plots and get it updated, and everything's scribbled on a piece of paper in a file over there. And I wanted to get it so there was a map and there was an Excel spreadsheet, so a cemetery trustee could go in and enter the new plot, and that would show up on the website. And well, we couldn't because we don't wanna give access to that. But with today's technology, there should be access to, a cemetery trustee could have access to that map.
You can
Data.
partition a platform.
Correct. And in that way, I mean, I was told we can't do that because it's gonna dump too much work on Elisa, because she can't update the cemetery maps, because you got enough going on, so it should be partitioned, so each department can do their own updating of their own department, whether it be the cemeteries or the planning board or whatever.
You can have separate pages within a platform. You can have a cemetery page.
And we do have that, we have
Yeah.
that right now,
Okay.
It's just,
yeah.
there's no one that can manage that.
Yeah.
Elisa has enough to do on managing the town.
What do you got?
Back the first time I was a selectman, our website was absolutely terrible. Nobody wanted to spend any money on it. The way it is today was the way we improved it back then at minimal cost.
Right.
Everything you add for what everybody's talking about here costs money. And someone has to be qualified enough to be able to keep it up to date.
Correct.
And we're
Okay,
ultimately
and we're a
responsible.
small town, and people here don't wanna spend a lot of money. The reason you've got low taxes here is because the three people that sit here manage our money effectively and keep everything to a minimum, whether it's us three or whoever was here before us. That was the process.
Right, but I honestly think if you've got some people in your household that are willing to donate some help in creating a website, once it's created, our cost would be hosting it.
Well, we also have,
And then we're managing it, of course, but.
if you remember with CCS, we did sign up to turn everything over to .gov, so we have that's gonna be coming in to play soon as well.
And that's gonna change our website, I would assume.
It's gonna, I believe so, it's gonna change all of our emails, all of that, so.
So, going forward with a website, we need to maybe not be looking at our platform that we have now. We need to be looking at, if we go to a .gov, what is the platform we need to do the functionality that we want?
Well, I would think the first step, and maybe I can ask one, my daughter at Mountaintop has now converted their entire CMS system from the one they've had to sell tickets and everything, because now they've got a cafe and a theater and a school. And she's transferring that whole system over. And the first thing I would ask her to do to just sit down with you and say, show me what it is and how it works, and what's okay about it and what's really difficult. And then you figure out whether you need a new one or you just adapt. Right. It sounds like you've got
A
to
lot
change it.
of towns in New Hampshire have pretty elaborate websites. I mean, Conway just switched theirs recently,
Huh.
okay? But their budget for it is $35,000
Yeah.
a year to not only to set it up and get it functioning, but to maintain it on a regular basis.
Well, the changes.
And you can't have 10 people in there doing their own
No.
thing, because
Right.
it'll be a mess.
We're responsible, so anything that they say wrong in there, we're responsible. So that, again, you can't have too many hands in there,
Right.
because the
So
planning
we've
board might
kept
put
it-
something that's
we-
illegal. for-
We kept
you know,
it simple the way it is right now.
So why don't we have a website committee?
We tried that, nobody volunteered.
Sounds like we're gonna
Sounds like you got
If I don't watch it, I'm gonna be,
Right.
no, but for example, the one you have now, if there was a field that was so-called chapel committee, I'm just making this up, for an activity of a type, which was updated by even giving the information to her to make it easier for her. So just put that information in that field, and then people know to see it there on your webpage. So that as they navigate the page, people who care about it can see it easily, people who don't care can just read when your hours are. And then the first impulse would obviously be to work with the one you've got and see what you can get out of it.
Well, the thing I'd recommend would be to take a look at what we have, okay, and make a recommendation.
Well, my oldest daughter is the whiz, I mean, so.
Does she live in Albany?
She lives with us over in
Okay.
Monmouth, she and her husband.
Yeah, I mean, I can give you my card if she wants to reach out to me, maybe just come and shoot some ideas, take a peek at what we got. We are in contract with Greenlight and CCS,
Yeah.
so,
So how could you improve with what you've got would be the
right,
start.
right.
And then number two, if you see functions that might really be valuable and useful, or even necessary, if you've got this .gov thing coming your way, what do you gotta do? Now, I do work with, places that, are city agencies, where they have to have proprietary stuff, you cannot have outside people getting into them. But there's still a way to put up certain pages to promote what you're doing here, and the assets of, I mean, there's that nice picture at the top and all that. You know, somebody did a Ferncroft Facebook page, and the attendance at Ferncroft just boomed, whoever did that.
Right.
You know, I still, nobody seems to.
Are they
know.
still doing it?
Well, all they had to do was put it up, because it doesn't change that much.
Right.
But when I ask these people from Massachusetts, when I walk down there every day, how'd you find out about it? Oh, somebody told me about this website. It was a website, Facebook page. And somebody did it some years ago, and that's when I really noticed a lot more people found it. So.
I feel like social media is a slippery slope.
Yep, well,
I'm an
that's
Ospey
different.
resident, well, that's, Facebook is social media.
Yeah.
Ospey resident, I see the Ospey pages, they're a nightmare.
Yeah.
All they're used for is to attack
Complain
each
to
other and road rage, but and it's
I
not.
invite you to the Tamworth Exchange.
But you know,
That's what I'm saying.
There's a way to do it where, and you guys probably know better than I do, but there's a way to do a Facebook page that doesn't allow people to post things on. It's
Yeah,
a-
you
it's a
can
way
shut
for
off
you-
comments, you
it's
can
a
make
way
it
for
just
you
your
to
post, sure.
Get information out
And
there.
again, we need volunteers to do that.
To do that, without a doubt.
Well, I'm of the Tom Sawyer School, I grew up farming, so I've mentioned this briefly, my daughter has plenty to do. But once she gets interested in a project, and that's the way to think about it, getting these things done as volunteers, as I said, if it's a project, if somebody gets excited about the project, then you'll get your volunteer.
Yeah.
But if you, if you agree, let's try that as a first step and see if I can get her to sit with you.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
And-
I mean, if you wanna put together a website committee,
Well, right now, I'm sort of the ad hoc committee, but not official yet. But let's see what she comes back with and say, well, here are 4 things you could do with
Yeah.
what you've got.
Right.
Then we need to have a coordinating committee and working with the town to make sure, because again, it's the maintenance and taking care of the thing is the work.
I think like even as simple as adding a way to put yourself on a mailing list, an email list, you know, on the webpage. That's a simple thing to do. It doesn't have to be maintained, and then it gives an access to someone.
And I feel like Greenlight can do that. They can do those things for us. Anytime that I've ever needed them to do something, they're right on it. They're awesome.
But
It's
I
just,
think let her come in and, you know,
yeah, no, I'm
give us
totally
some
open to
design
that.
ideas and.
Let's start, if you agree, let's start with that and then see what comes out of it.
I agree.
None of this is
I
money.
mean, we have to have a website because I believe there's state RSA that requires us to post
Yep.
Yeah.
certain things on a website. So I mean, it's not like you can just stay the website, trash it type of
Can't
thing.
do that.
There's certain things that are required by law that we have to put on there now. So, and I know one of them is agendas and minutes to meetings.
And the number one thing when you're trying to get people to look at information is ease of access, and if the website's crap,
Yeah.
no one's gonna wanna use it. So updating it, making it as simplified as possible, saying, hey, here's a little list of this thing, this thing, this thing, click on this, it'll show you all the information you need. It shouldn't have to be over-processed junk that no one wants to look at.
Yeah, but there's still simpletons out there that can't figure out simple things.
I'm not speaking upon everyone, but if you wanna access my generation and the generation maybe before me, ease of access is the number one.
Well, let me know about the sign too, if it's,
I think
whatever you wanna do about that.
we should have them do it. I mean, if we got something that needs to be in the sign, have them do it. Let's,
Well,
How would we go about notifying that we have something to go on the sign? It's not like he has to stop in every day, is there something?
send
to
it
do?
in,
all we need is a telephone number that she
Yeah.
can call and say, stop by and we'll give
She
you
calls
a
me
piece
in
of
the
paper.
morning when we're having
Yeah.
coffee, say, Joe, stop by. Or
Yeah.
stop by
Is that
on the way
okay,
back.
Lisa?
And
Yeah,
then-
I mean, I can go throw some letters on the
But
side.
now you don't have to.
True.
The other thing is-
We're not looking for more work for you.
We're trying to get, cause you're gonna go through the letters and the box and letters.
Right.
We need to
Yeah.
inventory the letters because there's a lot of things we fudge out there.
Sometimes you gotta duct tape over one thing.
Well, serious. I mean,
Yeah.
if you're gonna be serious about this, there may be some letters that we have to. add
Right,
to
and
it.
what are we posting, cause there's not enough room to put the selectmen's meeting, the planning board, the,
I
You know,
have to
it's-
put up the Christmas party one, that's Christmas.
that's what I mean. You guys need to decide what you actually want posted, and then we can go from
Have a
there.
nice day.
I like it, just stay up all year.
SLT and selectmen.
Yeah,
Make it simplified, short things, you know, like.
yeah, like, I did.
Yeah,
I
You
mean, I
don't
think
want it
there's
to be
only
a
3
jumble.
lines out there, isn't there, or 4 lines?
It's not it's not
No.
huge.
No, it isn't.
The Majestic Marquee isn't large either, so he has those decisions to make of how he says what.
Well, again, inventory the letters,
Yeah.
because I know some of the vowels and stuff are in short
But coming
supply.
from communications, repetition
Mhm.
is what we gotta do here. You want more attention and let people know and be more engaged. Everybody drives by that sign, I mean, I.
Well, I look at it, it's
I look at it with nothing's
It
there.
says town meeting,
It's the same thing
next
every
meeting
time.
November 5th.
Yeah.
Election
we don't
November
put the year on it.
5th. Oh, yeah, so you can leave it up, that's
Right, that's
why.
the idea.
Have a nice day.
All right, I think that's the way to go forward. That's a good idea.
And we ought to look into an electronic sign too.
Yeah.
It might scare us, but
I'm scared of it. It's just, we're not trying to sell something. I mean, it has to have a good value to it, a good return on value. We're gonna spend money
Well,
on
like John's saying,
it.
it needs to be different each time, so when someone drives by, they have a need to look at it, what's on there now.
are we gonna get sued for people getting into accidents? I'm
No.
looking at this.
Well, honestly,
And then when we have something important,
I think the value added is really trying to get more engagement.
Yeah,
Well, yeah,
community
that's-
involvement.
That's obvious.
Well, getting people to know when meetings are.
Yeah, and pay attention.
can we advertise for?
I mean, you know,
that's what I
having
thought, too.
property owners,
You
volunteers.
know?
having property owners give us,
wanted.
Volunteers wanted,
no,
Volunteers
making
that
sure
have a
property
list.
owners have the
Donations
correct
accepted.
mailing addresses.
Yeah.
people like being involved in their towns. Coming from a very large town outside of Boston,
Pretty soon it'll say new website.
yeah, this is
Okay,
like having that.
so I don't know where we get a pricing on a digital sign.
Well, we'll just.
Call a sign company.
Google.
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 We'll just start looking.
Okay.
Okay.
There's a guy in Conway.
Amazon.
who does Stuff with Majestic.
Free delivery.
He's
on
the
Amazon.
mayor of Gemini Signs, and I forget his name, John
Yeah,
Goodwin. He's
Yeah,
on the
John.
board of Mountaintop Music
Yeah.
Center.
yeah.
He calls himself Gemini Signs. and
Yeah, I
he's-
know John, yeah.
Well, he's
On what's the
resigned.
name?
Yeah.
Or start with him.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh, someone's taking notes. All right, I think we did it. I think we did it. Thank you guys for coming.
Thank you guys.
Appreciate- Anything else you guys want? Now's your chance. No.
Just let us do what we do best.
Do what you do best. Do it, and then, let us know.
You're welcome at any meeting.
Just don't spend anything without us knowing.
I peek into the YouTube stuff every now and then. See what's going on.
No, I do.
Here all day.
Right here.
Gosh, darn it. I'm so sorry just about that.
Okay.
Did we address everything you wanted to?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Well, is there, we were trying to have a proposal for you guys before, like, your articles need to be submitted for next year.
Yeah.
We were thinking sometime this fall, any specific time time you would like to have that meeting before,
Fall.
to give yourself time to discuss it.
In the fall,
Yeah.
for sure, definitely
September,
before
October.
December.
We probably would need to start knowing that probably the end of November.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cause then you get the CIP meetings, you get all that
Right.
stuff, so.
Yeah.
Submit it and have time.
And like I said, Alyssa, let Sean know that
Everything is.
Yeah.
put them on, put a contact,
Yep,
That's
On
fine.
the-
I've got
Just
my
review it up,
email.
have to be able to go
Yeah.
through
Yeah, that's true, it's just.
We have a lot of ideas.
I'll grab you a card.
I give you mine too. I love analog cards, I still do.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Whoops, sorry, I walked it.
You feeling better? No?
The favorites are fun,
So you're missing me.
yeah.
It's
Take
really
care.
good who he needs.
Thank you guys.
He's sick of me already.
Thanks for coming.
Take care.
That's kind of that.
That's what I find.
Alright, we're not done here.
New York, so I'm lazy to change it.
All of my older brothers
We're
still
gonna-
out there in Massachusetts, so.
Move to adjourn?
Nope, we're not done yet.
No more.
We got money to spend still.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Tell
John.
Doug, and remember, you're talking to a farmer here, spending money is not what we do.
No,
I'm looking for
no,
a
make it.
buyer for my soybeans.
Our meetings are the second and fourth Wednesday
Yeah,
of the
fine, yeah,
month.
that's all.
Yeah,
I would say maybe the second meeting in September or the first one in October.
but it gets snow in September over there.
No, they don't. No,
Not
we used,
anymore.
we used,
Not
no,
anymore.
we used to go up there and it was really enjoyable.
Yeah.
And I think we got people from Tamworth attending the
They don't know where they are over there, you know, there's 4 houses in a row, Sandwich, Tamworth, Albany, and then, Waterville Valley, there's somebody in Waterville Valley. And the wheeling and dealing that goes over there for the transfer station sticker.
Well,
Yeah,
You do the plowing,
Yeah.
summer.
Hilarious.
yeah.
That's how I got you broadband.
It's Frontier, well, here's what's funny, today I got a call from Fidium,
Yeah.
and fronting on Chinook Drive is my 2 acres in Tamworth, right? But they couldn't find me. And they said, "Where are you?" And I said, "I'm up the hill, I'm in Albany." And they said, "Where's that?" They couldn't, they had to manually create a map to find me with the property division and the zip codes. And once from the office here, it was, something was mailed to me to Albany, and it doesn't come to me if it says Albany, it has to say One Lansing because it goes to Tamworth. So.
There's actually and I don't know if it's a Band-Aid anymore, but the selectmen was supposed to walk the property lines of the town. Every 5 years or something, and we could never go out there and walk the town.
Well, when
That's
I,
exactly
All
what
about John.
No.
I found the location property, we were in Tamworth, I thought I'd do a New Hampshire thing and screw it up suing or something. But then Paul King reached out and said, "No, you're in Albany." That was the day when Tamworth actually took my taxes, I had to get them back and bring them back over.
Well, Albany is the 7th largest town area-wise in the state of New Hampshire.
7th.
Yeah.
And 89 or 88% of it is national forest.
Yeah.
East 89.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's a lot of walking to,
They used to say there's more Muslim people in Albany. Not anymore, but there used to be.
we get to.
Well, I'm impressed by your committee, because that is a resource.
They
You figure out
energize.
something to do with it.
I hope it continues for as long
Yeah,
as
the
it
key
can.
is keeping it going.
They've got a fair amount of gas in their tank, and also,
Future select people in the crowd.
yeah, one thing I do is I just spitball it, blue sky, what would you like to do if you could do anything, and then make a list of what you think you might need to ask, what would you need to do with insurance, all that kind of.
The camera's been getting your best side the whole
Yeah.
time.
That makes it very exclusive testimony.
Thank you, John.
Thanks,
Appreciate it.
All right,
Take
we'll be
care,
talking.
Thank you.
All right, we're gonna move on real quickly here. We wanna talk about the Valley Vision cameras.
I need to buy them.
You like everything that's on there?
Yep.
Option,
I don't think we should go with the wireless though.
no.
I don't think so either.
I would go with the cable.
I'm going by what he said the best option was.
Option 1, yeah.
And that's what my motion would include.
You wanna
For the cable.
put the price on it? Option 1, 295564.
299.54.
295564. I second that motion. All in favor?
Aye.
And now, planning board has not met. Review, discuss the letter to the selectmen from Beverly Eldon of Tin Mountain Conservation Center. What was that?
It is in the packet. I don't have a lot of familiarity with what she's looking to do. I didn't know if it should be kind of passed along to the Conservation Commission. I'm not really sure what she's.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Yeah,
So is that our property she's
Yes,
talking about?
yeah.
Is it the one that we
Above.
just cleared and
Yeah.
it did work?
Yeah.
Yeah, so she wants to, does she want to work on the grant, or she wants to?
That's what I was unclear on.
Why don't you invite her into a meeting with, so she can explain herself?
Okay.
Because I don't know anything, what it is.
Or what it
What
would
does it
entail,
entail?
exactly.
Yeah,
What's the effect, what's the, yeah.
no, okay.
Or turn it over to the Conservation Commission.
Well, that's what I was
Because it's
thinking.
their,
Yeah.
It's really
part of
hard.
their land.
Yeah,
'Cause
well,
that's in a conservation easement,
Let them decide and.
if I'm not
It's gotta
mistaken.
be. How else would we have it?
Well, because they're dealing with that, the reason they did the cutting out there was because Tim found,
A moth.
some kind of moth-eating stuff out there.
Yeah.
And the selectmen, as far as I know, never were involved in that.
No.
Maybe pass that on to Kathy Ryan.
Yeah.
Yeah,
okay,
I will
and
reach
see
out
if
to
she's
her.
aware of it and see where it goes. If not, if that's not the case, invite her in to explain.
Okay.
Okay.
I agree.
I think that's the best way to handle it.
Agreed. Now, Rick, you can make your motion.
Motion adjourned.
Oh, hold up. Oh, yeah, I have one more thing to clarify this. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but
We don't know until you tell us.
Elise has been asked a few times to do work for the planning board that I feel is beyond what she needs to do.
Right.
You want to send a letter to the secretary of the planning board, just explaining to him, I don't know if he realizes that it's not in her.
What type of stuff is he asking?
Well, last
Just
thing,
to, just to have an idea.
Like bringing stuff to the registry of deeds down in Ossipee.
That's the
And
secretary.
what Kelly said is she'd do stuff for him that was easy for her. She drove right by there every day, so sometimes Kelly would do stuff like that. The other day he did want me to scan a lot of files, which ended up he couldn't scan in here. I ended up scanning them for him just because he needed them, but we were able to get, blanking on the name right now, the company that does the machines, Porter, to come in. Now he can scan all he wants right from this, so that was a huge
okay. But originally he dropped the book in your lap and said,
right,
scan this.
right.
I think a letter should be sent to him that's
Just to clarify.
to clarify that he is the secretary, that's what he's getting paid for,
Right.
okay? Plain and simple.
Yeah. Unless you want to be the bearer of bad news at a meeting, or you want to do the letter.
I don't know how
I
I
think
don't
we
know
should
that I
have
need to do that in front of the
No.
whole.
Yeah.
No, I do a letter, just informing them that, the selectmen's town administrator, okay, is basically our executive secretary,
Hour.
okay, and it's not for the continued use of the planning board or the zoning board or anything like that, and that is the responsibility of the secretary of the planning board, zoning board, conservation commission, whatever.
However nicely you can dictate it, to say we're happy to help, but it's beyond.
Okay.
I don't know how you want to word it, but
I'm sure.
you get the
I'm
gist
sure
of it.
Kelly can
Yes,
help
you
you.
will.
Well, you might want to do
And
that.
listen, maybe list a couple of the things that
Right.
he's been.
I don't want to hurt his
So,
feelings or
but-
offend him
No,
either.
no, no,
you
no,
know?
no.
It's a
This
workload.
This is
thing.
business.
This is business.
Right.
And it's just the way it is. It's-
Nip it in the butt
Yeah.
before it gets to be too big a problem.
Right.
It'd be like him asking you to call the newspaper and put in ads for him. He should be doing that.
Which has been done in the past.
Hmm?
Which he has done in the past. Asked that.
Yeah.
We're gonna stop all that. He gets paid to do this.
The other thing we need to do is reorganize the select board.
I keep waiting for someone to volunteer, and he's not doing it.
Oh, so you're gonna stay on until you're replaced?
Well,
I think it's working fine.
You really,
I don't say now. What's gonna change? I mean, it's just conducting a meeting, that's all I do.
The chairman of the board, according to RSA, is nothing more than the person that runs the meetings and sets the agenda.
Yeah.
He has no more authority than the other two. He can't do anything without a vote of the other two, et cetera. I'm just saying that we need to just do that because we're required to reorganize by law.
Even if it stays the same, you read, just
I nominate Kelly for
try
chair.
second.
All in favor? Aye. Just so he doesn't change his mind.
All opposed? No, it's
I
really, there's really no big
nominate, I
deal.
nominate Jim for vice chair.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye. Okay. Now I'll second your motion to adjourn. All in
Okay.
favor?
Aye.
Aye. I think we got cut before we even adjourned.
No, it's still going, right, in minutes.
Okay.